Okay, so
Mhm.
welcome to this session.
Okay, thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here. Tell me what your name is, who you are, and what you're doing.
Okay, so my name is Antti Leijala, coming from Finland, and I'm the CEO of Ultralean Business Ltd. So, and I'm mainly helping business customers, enterprise customers to improve their sales performance.
Yeah, so for you, everything about sales can be measured and improved.
Yes, yes. So my kind of a whole, let's say, philosophy of behind my business is or has the kind of origin from lean methodologies or lean Six Sigma methodologies, and I've created a model, ultra lean sales
Mhm.
blueprint model, where we basically we measure everything and we focus especially on win rate. So first we make sure that we measure the win rate in a correct manner, and then we deep dive on the buying behavior analytics. So we do kind of root cause analysis on why did we win, why did we lose business, and then afterwards we once we learn from the customer buying behavior, then we make sure that we do the appropriate development in the process. So we don't, let's say, trigger ad hoc activities, but we always measure the effectiveness of the process and we improve the process, and then we see it from the data, the outcome, and that way we can kind of create a long-standing impact of the kind of a win rate improvement or data analytics.
So what you're telling me is that win rates can actually be measured. It's not just luck. There's actually some measurable points here.
Yes, yes. Win rate is first of all, there's many acronyms for win rate. Somebody calls it win rate, hit rate, conversion rate, and maybe even some others. But one of the fundamental things is that you first need to make sure that your formula is correct. Because many CRMs, for example, have biased formulas, so you can't, let's say, just rely on the formulas that you see from the tools, but you need to verify that you are actually measuring the right things.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that most company, even though they wanted to, they couldn't actually get an accurate win rate calculation.
Yes, or quite often the win rate. First of all, companies are not measuring it. So I've consulted more than 300 customers or companies, and less than 5% of them really measure win rate. It's not part of the KPIs for the company, which is amazing, surprising, but that's how it goes. And even those that do measure the win rate, it's quite often that they have kind of a biased measures. For example, they are mixing volumes and euros in same KPI, and it might be that if you for example win one big sales case with 100,000 revenue, for example, and you lose 50 or 100 small cases, it might be that your win rate formula shows 80% win rate because of this one single case, and it might be that you'll actually lose 90% or 99% of the cases, which means that your process is broken and you have this illusion that everything is fine. That's quite common example we hear.
And how many companies did you help over the time?
So far a bit over 300 companies maybe 200 industries. So very wide range of kind of experience from SME companies.
And is there any industries where this works better than others?
No, it's universal. Maybe farming is one specific industry that I haven't worked that much because of the kind of subsidies that they get. So they get kind of funding from EU or other sources, and it's not really
they don't
normal business in that sense.
Is it B2B, B2C, both?
B2B is my main focus. So that's where I focus. But maybe 20-25% of my customers have been from the B2C side.
But all of your customers have a sales process, so it's not an over-the-counter or e-commerce things. They have a sales process and sales people.
They may have e-commerce, but mainly they kind of operate via sending offers, and it doesn't mean that they would always have a CRM, for example. Quite often, especially the small businesses, they have Excel or piece of paper where they record the ongoing cases that they have, or they try to do it. Usually they fail, but they try to manage everything in their own head or Excel. So they should have a process, and they even have a process, but it's not documented anyway. That's a very common challenge that they can't explain how it goes.
Yeah, so basically you help companies that have a sales process and where their win rates are not good enough.
Yes, yes, and so that's usually the starting point is that the companies want to grow, and they understand that they need to improve their sales. But and when I start challenging them that okay, let's make this, let's kind of quantify that how what is the current state, the starting point. Companies, as they don't measure win rate, they may say that, hey, we win every second case. But then when you ask, continue the dialogue and ask that, okay, how many cases you actually made, how many offers you made last year, 100. Okay, how many did you win? 22. So it wasn't 50, but it was 22%. The kind of a winner. So they have this illusion typically that their win rate is much higher than it actually is.
Yeah, so that's what I hear as well when I ask how many do you win. It's always 90%, 95%, and but it might just be an illusion. Yeah. Okay, so companies out there think their sales process is much better than it actually is, and you can measure that by very low win rates. And then, as I understand it, you go in and you start by measuring the starting point accurately. Yes. As I understand it, you start by building a model so that you can pull data out of the CRM. Yes.
There is actually kind of a two parts. One is to establish this or start collecting buying behavior data and having that kind of a CRM part in control and in good use. The other thing is that what happens before the CRM. So typically, what's a typical handicap in companies is that they have not defined their target groups, for example. They don't know what are the 5 or 6 target groups that they try to address. They have not analyzed the buying behavior, buying processes, buying criteria of those 5 or 6 target groups, and then they just they have marketing, sales activities without knowing where to shoot. So they are basically shooting blind, pretty much. So this kind of a basic thing is usually something that you should do before you even think about CRMs and the tool side. So first put the processes in place, then you model your processes in the tools, and then you start using that tool to learn from the buying behavior changes and to kind of keep the process in control.
Yeah, because the reason we're sitting here is that I've seen firsthand how B2B sales processes can be boosted with the right tools. First of all, the right choices. Are we going after the right target groups, the right prices? Do we have the right prices in place? Do we know how the process should be structured?
Yep.
And then having the right tools at the right place that enables the buyers to make the right decision for them, which sometimes is to buy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what are the tool sets you are using there?
I have basically 3 different tools. For the planning side, I have so-called Ultra Lean Sales Planner tool, which is used to define your target group, understand the buying processes, buying criteria, and to plan your own marketing and sales process. Kind of a process planning tool for the basics. Then I have so-called business simulators. Which is one kind of a key element or tool of any B2B company. And the reason comes from the fact that there are 20 criterias that behind the customer buying behavior or buying decision, and price is usually raised as number one criteria when I ask for example from customers that, hey, okay, you have this target group that can you explain what are the top 3 buying criteria of that target group? And typical answer is that the number 1 criteria is price, number 2 criteria is price, and number 3 criteria is also price. So they have this kind of an illusion that decisions are done only because of price, and especially the small and medium-sized businesses, they lack knowledge and tools to calculate the customer payback time, return on investment, net present value, kind of show in monetary terms that what's the payback for the investment. So they are competing with price, and at the same time, they lack the tools to calculate the ROI, to put it kind of briefly.
So when you're talking about simulators, are they internal tools that the sales teams use on internal meetings, or is it a tool for the sales meeting, or where are these simulators used?
In terms of kind of a sales and marketing, so typically they are, first of all, they are used in the marketing phase. Usually embedded in the company website. There's a relatively simple simulator, ROI calculator to raise the interest. That, hey, buy this service or product and you will get your money 10 times or 100 times back. But just to kind of raise interest and in a very simple manner. And then the sales teams usually have a more comprehensive simulator where they go to kind of different factors behind the calculations, and they kind of go very deep to the customer business model and help customers to understand how their own economic situation will improve using your products or services.
So basically, your simulators are tools that marketing can use or
Mm.
sales can use to
Yes.
allow the customers to calculate what their potential output is instead of just telling them. They are
Yeah.
actually engaging them.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And what usually happens is that when you, for example, if you are selling healthcare services to a business customer, and you are talking with the HR director of the customer, and that HR director typically has his or her competencies on the human kind of part, and they are not experts in economics. So you actually when doing these calculations jointly with your HR counterpart at the company side, you actually provide them a tool that they can, once they first understand that hey, there is a big impact to the for example sickness leaves, they can go to their own CFO or CEO with the calculations that hey, now we need more budget for the kind of people side of the company because we save this and this amount of money in sickness leaves or attrition costs or similar.
So what you're telling me is that the simulator helps the champion on the buying side to cross the bridge to the financial economic buyer on the buying side. So you typically have a champion in HR or in tech or whatever, where you are selling, there's a good dialogue, you both understand what this is about. But the CFO needs to understand the return on investment, payback time, these kind of elements which the champion might not know much about. The sales rep might be not that knowing about the financial parts, and they need to understand the model so well that they can present it for the CFO to get a decision.
Exactly. So we kind of bring the decisions to the CFO language, and you need to do it so that the numbers are, the kind of calculation formulas are correct, so that it's not a fake calculator, and whoever is presenting the calculations, whether it's our own sales team to the HR counterpart or whether it's the HR to his or her CFO, they need to understand it well enough that they know how the calculations are done. They don't need to be experts on investment calculations, but they need to somehow level up their own competencies on this matter.
And what is the impact in these sales processes? How does it impact to use a simulator instead of just presenting the numbers in a PowerPoint?
Well, first of all, I think that having this kind of a dynamic model where you can visualize and use different kind of graphics to visualize the change, that is very, very powerful. If you just show Excel table with a lot of numbers, you don't really see somehow the big picture and impact. But when you have a graphical interface over there, it's easy to understand. You have, for example, a slider moving some underlying parameters, and at the same time you see on the right hand side, for example, you see that how it impacts your profit of the company or savings or so. So visualizing is very, very important here. It's somehow the magic.
Yeah. So and you have actually, with the 250 customers you've worked with, did you actually participate in some of these sales meetings?
Yes. Participating, also being kind of a kind of a business simulation expert, and helping them to articulate the kind of a calculation models to the end customer.
And
And of course, training them is one key element to train the salespeople how to use them.
yeah, I could imagine that. And so what is can you tell me about such a sales meeting? What does the sales rep talk about afterwards? How does the customer receives that they are being asked to actually participate in the meeting more actively?
Well, first of all, for the sales guy, it's having a kind of an outsider helping to in the kind of a in the kind of building trust. It's all about trust first of all, whether the customer trusts the sales guy, and usually it's a good idea to have somehow externally audited calculations. So if you as a sales guy you said, okay, we bring 300% ROI. The first reaction is that, hey, okay, this is just the sales guy talking. But if they can show or even bring to the same discussion and around the same table, they can bring an outsider who kind of certifies the calculation methods or guarantees that, hey, okay, we have done these calculations. We are experts on that side, and we kind of we certify that the formula is correct. So it creates more credibility to the calculations, because it's all about credibility, that whether you're 300% ROI, whether the customer agrees on it, it's based on their own numbers, and whether they trust on the formula.
Yeah, so I've heard the same thing, and it's quite surprising and to hear that a business simulator is about trust, and it's about making the customer understand how a return on investment could be so high for them.
Yeah, and it's also communication, very much. It's communication that you are able to communicate the financial benefit to the customer. So maybe communication is even the most critical ones, because we have a lot of information coming and going all the time, and we usually fail in communicating that in a way that customer understands what we try to tell them.
And when you mean communication, from the experience I've had before with some of our customers here in Lead Doubler, is that communication becomes much simpler when you are introducing a simulator, because you don't have to explain things. You just ask the customer to use the simulator. Exactly. And then they start asking for specific things. So let me take you through an experience from one of our customers who used such a simulator in his sales tools. Before he used PowerPoint, he spent 30 minutes talking about bits and pieces, and the customer was just falling asleep. It was a tech customer, so they found it interesting, but they never really got anywhere with the sales. Then they turned it around. Instead of the PowerPoint, they just showed the simulator. And suddenly the tech guy who was already interested in the product found through the simulator the bridge that he needed to cross to the financial side of the business. Exactly. Yes. And that's exactly how I also kind of advise customers to do it, that when you look at your sales process, you and the very early stages of the sales process, which is usually kind of trying to understand the customer pain point, for example, or collect information on their needs. So very, very early stages, you start with the simulator. So you first start with the simulator. Hey, let's look at your business, and let's for example see that how much
money you are spending on different elements, whether it's headcount related, personnel related, or costs that you are paying to other customers. But you first talk about business and raise their interest to improve certain KPI, for example. When I'm helping customers to improve their win rate, I start with modeling that, hey, what is your win rate today, and how much they would gain more revenue if they can improve their win rate from the typical 20% to 25%, for example. So and simulate this, and only after that I go and explain my products and services and how fantastic they are.
Okay, so you're taking your own medicine here.
Yeah.
So try to take me through your sales process. What's the first thing that happens? Just plain and easy.
Yeah. First of all, I operate very, very much via LinkedIn. So I get connected to company owners. I have a big, close to 30,000 entrepreneurs in my kind of personal connects in LinkedIn, and I start discussing with them or chatting, and once there is a kind of a two-way interest to take it a bit deeper, and we schedule a first meeting, usually Teams call, half an hour, 1 hour, and during that introduction call, I bring my business simulators on table that, hey, this is what I do. I help customers to improve their win rate, and let's play a bit that how big impact it would have to your company. And once they understand that, hey, even 1 or 2 or 3% improvement annually to your win rate, that doubles your business in a couple of years' time, they get interested. That, hey, okay, I'm not measuring win rate. This guy knows that it has a very big kind of a swing effect, and then they are interested to learn and understand. Okay, how do I do the tricks? What are my products? What are my services? And how I can help them get that return.
Some of the other customers we have, they talked about that this creates a pull effect, that the customer actually starts asking for meetings, and the sales velocity increases.
Yes.
Did you experience the same?
Yes. I have experienced exactly the same thing. I have less focused on the velocity part, so I'm mainly focusing on the win rate. So it with the logic that it doesn't matter how long it takes, it doesn't matter how much effort you use for your own marketing or sales. What matters is that your win rate grows from 20% to 21, 22, 23, 24, and so forth.
So if there's one thing you could, if there's a B2B sales company that comes to you and says, I can only do one thing, and our win rate is 15%, we know it's not that good, you can only do one thing, would that be the simulator?
Yes, in most cases it would be the simulator, and first for the company themselves to understand that how big value that has, their services have towards the customer. And once you do the simulator, they start thinking that, hey, okay, our value proposition in our website is not actually correct because our value is somewhere else that they thought earlier. Then they start to think that, okay, how to incorporate that simulator and the kind of message in their sales process, how to present that to the customer and so forth. So first it's a learning exercise within the customer, and then once your own marketing and sales team understands what value they bring to the customer, then you can start launching it to the first cases.
Okay, so there's new customer coming to you. You have a dialogue. You show them your simulator, and you start talking about their win rates.
Yep.
And then next step is that you actually build their simulator.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
And when you do that, you have to ask about different things like their pricing strategy, their pricing overall, and their what return on investment they are giving to their customers. And when this happens, your customers learns a lot. So that's step one.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And quite often it's kind of relatively easy to come out with a kind of somehow savings calculations that, okay, you save this amount of money, but when you go to return on investment or net present value or the kind of real investment calculations, then you are immediately in your pricing.
Yeah.
Because you need to, it's not only the benefit, the savings that you provide to customer, but it's, you also need to have the cost of your services. And to be honest, quite often the customer does not have a clear pricing strategy and model.
Yeah.
They are making their calls from the head and giving discounts left and right. They don't have a kind of a standard pricing list or calculation method, and discounting policy is usually missing. So you go actually pretty fast to the core of their business and fix also the pricing related things. And sometimes it happens that your price is too high, and the ROI and you don't, your ROI is negative to customer.
But
then they need to think about their pricing and product. That, hey, okay, are we in the wrong business totally? Because we are overpriced, and customer doesn't get the money back.
But if you have 100 simulator cases, sometimes you actually, through the simulator case, you actually start asking questions about their pricing.
Yes.
And sometimes that leads to decreased prices, other times to increased prices. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Yes. And quite often just documenting the current pricing, not even doing those changes yet, but first understanding the baseline.
So and in 100 cases, in how many of those have you actually raised the prices?
30%, 40%. At least, maybe half. I haven't calculated exactly, but it becomes a question immediately when your ROI or net present value is good enough.
And in how many out of 100 cases did you actually decrease prices?
5% range. So most often it's increasing prices, clearly, because you understand your own value, and then it's a matter of courage. That do I have the courage to increase my price with 10%, 20%, or even double the prices? Because you see the value in your eyes, and you have tools to kind of calculate it for each customer.
So through the simulator and the workshop around building the simulator, your customers gain the courage to increase the prices.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't do it before you came in. They didn't understand the value.
Yeah.
Through the sales meeting they start operating in, they start focusing less on price and more on return on investment.
Yes.
And just to tell what I have experienced firsthand when I use simulators in my sales process, is that if I have just shown a return on investment of 100,000 euros, and I show a price of 500 euros, there's no discussion about price. The difference between those two numbers are so big that people are like, yeah.
Yes, it's kind of the business case is obvious quite often, and then you can focus on other buying criteria like quality, credibility, location sometimes, or some product features and financing options. So there are all kind of other criteria, but you eliminate the price discussion. You just move it away.
So basically, if you have a business that is struggling with low win rates, a high focus internally and in the sales meetings on price, if there's no pull effect, meaning that the champion never pulls you faster, it's always you as a sales rep who needs to take the next step.
Yeah.
If you're in a company, either as a sales rep, a head of sales, VP of sales, business developer, or an owner, you're struggling with low win rates, no pull effects, a lot of discussion about price, then getting a simulator could fix all of these things in one process.
Exactly. And there are many types of simulators, so it's not just somehow one size fits all, but the simulators are designed around your own business model, your own product services, your pricing, your kind of competitiveness, and then the factors behind that. So it's kind of a tailor-made models that we are basically documenting your entire business model, including the customer value in the simulator, in a way that you understand it and your customers understand it.
So basically what you're telling me is that getting a return on investment simulator for sales meeting, you cannot just take a simulator off the shelf. There's actually a part of the game that is coming from the workshop, or that someone else, a trained person like you, comes into the customer and says, let's calculate this together, let's find the formulas together. And there's a work going on that educates the user, because suddenly they need to find this. So a lot of the value actually happens even before the simulator is done.
Yes, exactly. So and it's all about getting sometimes a bit complicated Excel models and formulas in a easy to communicate formula. And there, this kind of a online business simulator tools are just fantastic tools, because the complexity is hidden and you only have a couple of sliders or input parameters that you add to the tool, and you get immediately the kind of outcome and so that it reflects to the KPIs that are important for the customer.
Yeah, because that's one of the questions, because you could do this in Excel, but you're telling me that it needs to be a more polished tool. You need to hide some of the complexity from the Excel file itself.
Yes, exactly. Well, take your laptop, and are you confident in showing any of the Excels to anybody else? Usually the answer is no, because there is always kind of fuss around the different sheets, and it's not structured in a way that you can even identify the input cells, output cells, the formulas. They are just hidden there, and very difficult for anybody else to understand Excel that, for example, you have done or I have done. It's Excel is simply not made for communication.
Yeah, exactly, and that's also what I'm sort of like more and more focused on. You have if you're a sales rep, if you're actually driving to people, to your customers, you're probably driving in a pretty expensive car. You are dressed up. You are going to the hairdresser once a week. You do so many things that actually costs a lot of money. Then you go into the sales meeting. Some companies do that. Then they run an old PowerPoint, which is cheap to produce and just a lot of information, or they open their Excel file, which is so expensive that they end up sitting behind the screen, typing things in, talking to the customer, typing things in, keeping things hidden, having a wall between them and the customers. Whereas what we have seen with some of our customers is that they enter the meeting, they open up an iPad, puts it flat on the table, and says, let's calculate what your business looks like today, and let's see what our solution might be able to do for you. Because in the beginning of a sales meeting, it's actually, in my opinion, I might be wrong, okay to express uncertainty. It's okay to say, well, I don't know if this works for you. Let's figure it out. And if you can do this in a playful way that engages the opponent, then they are not falling asleep. They're actually leaning forward. They're interacting. They're educating themselves. And by the end of such a session, I've seen people say, okay, how much does it cost? And that's what we advise. That's the time when you take the iPad again, and then you actually do the quote on the spot for the customer based on their own numbers.
Exactly. Sometimes the customer does not know their own numbers, or actually quite often.
Yes.
So you are actually asking them to provide numbers that they don't know, and it's very powerful when you know customers' business case better than they do themselves.
Yes.
And you show that you have the kind of deep knowledge on their business, and you ask the right questions. And maybe they don't know the exact headcount or average salary or some other parameter from the top of their head, but they know they can estimate usually pretty provide some estimations, and you can jointly kind of go through the model, and then you can provide the link, and the customer can fine-tune the calculation afterwards. And even you can have some kind of scenarios over there, which is quite good, that you provide them a business simulator with pessimistic, neutral, and optimistic scenarios. And that way they can it's not just one calculation, but you actually have 2 or 3 different scenarios, and if customer sees that even the pessimistic scenario pays back 100 times or something, then much easier to get your investment through.
Yeah, because that's one of the problems that we see with return on investment calculators, is that if the customer is not actually calculating the return on investment themselves, they simply cannot believe in a 100x return on investment. They have to understand it. They have to try to pull some sliders back and forth to really grasp, okay, now I understand how it can be either 10 or 100x return on investment, because it does matter. For us, it's a perfect fit because we have so many people in the company or whatever. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting process to witness how the sales meeting completely changes when you add a simulator. That's actually one of the key interests I have, is that once you start working with buying behavior, once you start opening up and provide the right tool at the right moment, you can have such a nice communication that is not forceful, that makes it possible for engineers and others who do not want to sell to be a part of a sales process and a sales meeting that doesn't feel salesy.
Yeah, exactly. And you actually sometimes what happens is that now actually quite often that the customer starts thinking that, hey, we actually don't only need to calculate ROI for this specific investment, but we actually need these ROI calculations or simulators all across our company. It might be that they are, for example, they are planning to invest in a marketing campaign themselves. And they don't have a clue whether it's going to be profitable or not. That's very typical. Or they are planning some other investment, not something that they buy from myself, for example, but they are planning to invest in a new ERP system or CRM system or some other tool or new factory somewhere, something else, and they would benefit from these scenario planning tools for the investments, because most investments, especially on the small businesses, but even in the mid-sized businesses, it's kind of gut feeling based investments that the world is somehow living on it. Very, very few small businesses or SMEs actually do proper investment calculations that they feel that it's a good idea to invest, and then they just spend money and hope the best.
Yeah, that's at least the way we have experienced it and heard about it, is that when we present a calculator, a simulator, at such a sales meeting, the customer starts feeling an ownership of it and actually wants to bring that into his own organization.
Exactly.
So one of our customers, they presented a simulator, and the customer says, "Can you send this to me? I want this. I want to go through this with our CFO."
Yeah.
And once they've done that, they say, "Well, can we have this? Can we use it internally for other projects?"
Yes.
So suddenly the simulator itself becomes the first value that you give a customer.
Exactly. So it's kind of a tool towards other stakeholders, like your customers, for example, or suppliers, or kind of outside of the company, but then also within the company. For example, many CEOs, they love the simulators because they can present to the company board scenarios. Instead of trying to collect bits and pieces from all possible systems every month, using hours or days of their expensive time just to collect data, and then they report something to the board, and they can kind of move it to a model where they have this simulator, and they in the board meetings, they are not reporting anymore, but they are actually discussing different scenarios and the payback time of scenario A, B, and C. So it many applications. So quite often one simulator becomes 3 or 5 simulators.
I think it's amazing. I think these interactive tools should be used much more. We need to get things out of spreadsheets. There's a lot of gold in spreadsheets around the world. And we have to also respect that building them is a process, and in the building process itself, magic happens. Like the business suddenly understands that they can actually increase their prices with 30%. And if 30% of your customers increase their prices just with 10%, and if you at the same time increase their win rate with 1%, then the effect on a business is amazingly large. It just sounds like this is a very expensive and time-consuming project to get started with. But I'm not sure that's so. If I wanted a simulator for my company, and I went to you, what would a cost base for the project element be? How long does it take?
Well, typically the simulators, let's say establishing it takes a couple of hours. it's surprising how, let's say, a typical simulator, kind of creating the Excel model.
Yeah.
It's usually 2 hours, something like that. If it's a very complicated modeling, then it takes 1 or 2 days. But we are not talking about weeks or months. We are counting it in few hours, and that means that they can be actually produced pretty fast.
And
so within a couple of days, you actually get the simulator embedded to your website, or even in within the same day, if you're kind of starting from a simple model.
Okay, so if my win rates are poor and my sales is just always about price, then I could arrange a workshop with you.
Yep.
Set aside 2 hours, and after 2 hours there is a simulator running. It might be on the website the same day or a few days later.
Yes.
It might be a part of the sales meetings in a week, and sales reps might be trained in it, and you can actually start seeing improved win rates after how long time? Months, years, weeks?
Well, usually it starts impacting immediately because but that requires that you really change your sales process. If you just create the simulator and put it on the web and nobody cares about your website, nobody visits that, nobody uses that simulator, then the impact is pretty much zero. But if you really take that simulator as your step one when engaging with the new customer, you can see the change starting from that first customer that you take it into use.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is ultra lean sales process has a process that goes like this. There's some kind of connection happening, in your case on LinkedIn, could be other platforms.
Yeah.
You get a connection, and then you introduce the return on investment as the first thing with two purposes. First, you get some numbers you can understand, so you can use them later in your closing process. Two, you get the customer to understand this is not a discussion about price. This is a discussion about savings, return on investment, or customer potential. So you get a communication that's focused on the one thing you want the communication to be focused on.
Yep.
Then there's a second meeting, maybe, that's more in depth, and this is maybe on the CFO level, or is that even needed?
It's not always needed, but quite often you want to simplify things in simulators that you put on the website.
Yes.
So you need to there's kind of you want to limit the number of parameters in 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters, and it might be that you want to have in your calculation model 10 or 15 different parameters that you discuss with the customer to get to the kind of really deeply to the customer business model.
In a B2C environment, online simulators is very effective for lead generation. Is that the same when you're talking B2B, or do you actually generate the lead first and then invite to the calculator?
Yeah, I think it's more it's kind of less a lead generator. It's more a tool to close the deal. That's how I of course it depends on company, but I would say that it's kind of 30% lead generating and 70% deal closing tool. Okay,
so just to sort of like reflect on this sort of thing, you came into this dialogue, and the first thing you mentioned was that companies typically has a much lower win rate than they could have if they used a simulator. You also talked about that your customers are often too focused on price in their communication with customers. They are often talking about how cheap they are and they're the best price on the market, whereas the customers, they might not be that much focused on price. And one of the ways to get the communication going in the right way is to deploy a simulator very early in the sales process and keep that as a cornerstone through the whole sales journey. Let the tool do the sales for you.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes we tailor simulators for one single end customer. So, for example, if your company is selling they have, for example, a product that they try to sell to different airline companies.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than having a one simulator, kind of a standard simulator to show your ROI, they deploy one simulator which is branded with the Swiss Air, and another one for Lufthansa and SAS and so forth. So even the simulator is kind of branded for the customer, which is then one level closer. It's not only a standard tool to model your business, but it actually, the look and feel is like it would be your own product. And small things that all impact to the kind of somehow the credibility and that, hey, we are actually modeling your benefits over here and the kind of financial impacts.
So what you're telling me is that the time it takes to build a simulator is so short and it's so effective that you actually sometimes build a simulator for one meeting.
Yes, exactly. Why? Because typically in those cases, the Excel model is the same, regardless of the customer, and especially in cases where a single investment is big. So you are not just selling pens and mugs and something, but you are selling investments that may cost hundreds of thousands of euros or millions or tens of millions. So if one case is worth of 10 million, it doesn't matter if you kind of the cost of tailoring a customer specific simulator is just a tiny fraction.
So if you in the beginning of a sales process with an enterprise customer,
yep,
and you're afraid that you will not win this deal and it's important for you, and this meeting is in 1 week, 2 weeks time, it will actually be enough time to call you, have a simulator done, have it ready for the meeting, and thereby improve the chance of winning this specific deal.
Exactly, and we did it if you start from kind of a scratch, but if you have already made one, if you have kind of made the generic version of the simulator, then you don't need 1 or 2 weeks, but you can create customer branded copies of the simulator within minutes or a couple of hours. So you can even work in a kind of a mode that that on Wednesday or tomorrow, Tuesday, you have a customer meeting. Can we still get the customer branded simulator? So the answer is yes. Of course, you need to kind of prepare. I need to have a bit of visibility to the sales funnel, so that it's kind of some preparation done. But it's a matter of minutes or a few hours that you can react.
You talked about the validation of the simulator itself externally. I've thought the same. Is it needed? I've never heard a customer actually where they expressed that this was needed. It's in my experience, it's as though having a calculator is trust enough.
I see it actually quite often. In that sense, if it's an online calculator, you get the perception that, hey, someone has created this online fancy tool, so it must be correct.
Yes.
But and here comes the big but, is that especially ROI calculations are most of the ROI calculations that you see are false in terms of formula. So if you go to Google and you Google the formula for ROI calculations, usually in the first page of Google you get 5 different formulas. So we use a lot ROI calculation or ROI as a term, but it's pretty messy. And if your audience is HR, for example, or some engineering team whose expertise is not financial calculations, for them it might be that it's good enough. But if your audience is CFO, who immediately points that, hey, this is a false calculation, then you will never get back to the discussion. You lose your credibility immediately over there. So it's better to do your kind of homework well. Make sure that the formula is exactly kind of follows the business logics and calculations taught in the economic schools.
Okay, I've heard enough.
Yeah.
I am completely blown away. You have so much experience in helping companies improve their win rates with simple tools. It's a 2-day project. It sounds like or 2-hour project.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy to not do it, almost no matter how your sales process is. I would say after this conversation, have a discussion with you. You might sometimes experience that the customer has everything in place, but in most cases they could use a simulator to help them improve their sales process, and the sales process just becomes so much easier, and the win rates improve, and maybe even the prices. So I think it's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I wanted to, where can people meet you? Do you have a website? How do they get in contact with you?
Okay, so well, first one is LinkedIn. So that's kind of easiest way to get connected. So here you can find it with my name, Antti Leijala, ANTTILEIJALA. So that's easy way to do it. Then website ultraleansales.com is the website where you find information on sales process development, win rate improvement, buying behavior analytics, and the business simulators. So that's the first place to get kind of a bit insight and get connected.
I think it's been amazing to hear your thoughts on these things. It sounds simple, much simpler than I thought. I've experienced it myself. We are also building simulators here, but having your 250 case B2B cases as backup, that tells you that 30% can increase their prices and increase their win rate. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I believe as well.
Okay, so thanks a lot for having this conversation with me. And let's. I hope we continue, and that someone will actually find this useful. So
yes.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks, Morten, for your invite.